All right, so thank y'all so much for joining our panel discussion today. My name is Marky Lasker. I am the host and CEO and founder of Mask Off Panel Incorporated, and we talk about mental and emotional health issues. We're the glue to connect people to the right resources when they're dealing with anything mentally and emotionally. And today on our panel discussion, we have Mr. Alton, Drakkar, Marquez, TonyBo, Datavian, Alicia Bowswer, Ms. Hannia, Brandi, and Ms. Brittinee. And we all came together to discuss the mental and emotional health struggles while dealing with racism, social injustice, and the movement, Black Lives Matter movement. So today we've been given topics and questions that have been brought to us, and we want to talk about those topics and how it affects each of us individually and personally, and have a panel. So I'm going to let Mr. Alton start. Introduce yourself, and then we'll go around and have everybody introduce themselves, and then we'll go into the questions.
Okay, my name is Alton Barnes. I'm from Conway, Arkansas. I work with the state, and I've done a lot of activism and volunteering, and very excited to be a part of this conversation today.
Thank you. All right, Drakkar.
Hi, everybody. My name is Drakkar. I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri. I moved to Dallas in 2015, and my first job in Dallas is actually where I met Hannia when I was training in my management position at Hollister. I met Hannia at the Arlington Hollister, and that's how we became close as friends. And then after that job, I met TonyBo, and then we met at Uber. We had worked at Uber for a few months. And then we all just stayed in touch. So that's a little bit about me and how I know everybody, the people that I brought into the panel. So, yeah.
Right, thank you. Marquez.
Hello, my name is Marquez. I am a licensed professional counselor. I am from Arkansas as well, a small country town. I've been in Dallas for 9 years. And so the last 7 to 8 years, I have worked in HIV prevention, sexual health, mental illness, mental health, and substance abuse.
All right, Datavian.
How you doing? This is Datavian and Alicia Bowswer. I'm a retail manager. I'm glad to be a part of this panel, man, to support my sister and Mask Off panel. And I'm just excited to hear you guys' views and just to be a part of such a great thing and such negative in the world. And so I'm just glad to be here.
Thank you. Hannia?
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Nice to see your lovely faces. Hi, Drakkar. Hi, Marquise.
Hi,
Hey.
Hannia.
I live in Arlington, Texas. I was born in Mexico, but I've been in Arlington my whole life, and I'm so excited to be a part of this panel, and I'm so excited to learn and listen to everyone.
Great. Brandi.
Hi, my name is Brandi. I met Marquisa through a mutual friend and started doing some graphic design for her for the Mask Off panel. Kind of been MIA lately on that, but I'm glad to be back and a part of this. And I'm just ready to listen and learn from everybody.
Great. And not last, not the least, but Ms. Brittinee.
Hey everybody, how y'all doing? I'm Brittany Washington, born and raised here in Fort Worth, Texas. I am a business owner. I have a Botan handkerchief, Blonde Be Exquisite. I am a community activist as, well, I guess you could say a community activist is like new, but I've always been one that spoke up against injustices. I am an industrial organizational psychology major with a minor in business management at Alton State University, and do some business consulting. So I'm just glad to be here with you guys to discuss the situation that's going on, and it has been going on, but we are getting the opportunity to be more vocal about it and be seen on many more platforms that are addressing the situation. So thank y'all for having me.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you all for being a part of the discussion.
Don't forget TonyBo.
Oh, TonyBo, I'm sorry. You in the middle. I do apologize. TonyBo, sorry.
It's okay, guys. My name is TonyBo. I'm a network and systems administrator at a small company called Vox Technologies in Richardson, and I'm just super grateful to be a part of this presentation. I think Brittany had touched on it. We all have an opportunity to continue the mission, the underlying issue. We all know what's going on, so I'm excited to be a part of it and get this discussion going.
Great. Okay, so now thank you all for being part of the panel discussion. We're gonna jump right in. If by show of hands, how many of us have experienced racism of any kind? Okay, so all of us have experienced racism. That is a tough subject right now. It's very sensitive for people to talk about, to hear about. I'm to the point where I don't even like watching the news because every day it's something brought new. Definitely after Mr. Floyd's death, and then we had a young man who got killed in Atlanta. It's too much, and it's weighing on people such as myself mentally and emotionally. For me, I want to contribute, but I don't know how without making a scene. And when you're emotional, you never know what's going to happen. So for me, I've been in the house, but wanting to and really at ease because I want to let people know that I definitely believe all lives matter, but Black lives matter. And then we have to figure out a way to stop. And having platforms such as this to discuss and have a different variety of people to talk about your own individual experience, I think that's the only way is we start having conversations about it, and then the change will begin with us. So we know everybody's experienced racism. So I'm just, whenever you want to jump in, if you want to tell how has racism affected you personally or your relative or someone that you're connected with, if you want to share a story, then we'll start with that before we go into our questions. Does anybody want to share anything?
I'll kick this off.
Okay, go ahead.
When I was a teenager, my first job was working in the aquatics department for the city of Fort Worth. And every day we would work beside officers from Fort Worth Police Department. I feel like at 29 years old and knowing what I see now on the TV, had I not experienced those good officers, by the time a couple of years later when I moved off to college and went to school in a small country town and was getting pulled over by the police because your signal light didn't last through the whole turn or you look suspicious, I understand why people have a bad perception of police officers that didn't get an opportunity to experience what I had, experiencing good cops versus you getting into a country town and they telling you stuff like, you niggas better come from over here on this side of the tracks because we hang your kind after dark. And these are the police officers, the people that are supposed to protect and serve. So who do we get a chance to call whenever the people that we're supposed to call to feel safe make us feel unsafe? And that was one of the first things, or amongst many, that just really caught my eye to say, you know what, now I'm an adult, so now I have to look at this from an adult perspective. I don't have a parent advocating for me at this moment. I have to deal with this thing firsthand.
Great, thank you so much, Brittany, for sharing that. Anybody else want to share anything?
Yeah, when I was 15 years old, I had my wrist broken by a police officer. I've experienced quite a bit, just like Brittany was talking about being pulled over. I used to drive for Uber for a very long time before I went to go work for the corporate division. And I could remember certain instances, me dropping off a couple of white girls in a certain area real late at night. And because it's so dark and maybe they're not used to seeing somebody like myself in their area, I could just be sitting there loading up my next ride, getting pulled over. Or, there's just too many instances. And so I think for me, I was angry, but now once you know your rights and you know how much you have to lose, I think you can approach the situation better. But I know we're going to get into that.
Right. All right. Anybody else want to share?
I'll share.
Okay.
When I went to Missouri State University, it was in Springfield, Missouri, which is one of the whitest towns in Missouri. It's in the Bible Belt. So if you can imagine, a population of a lot of white people in the Bible Belt is going to be racist. So I remember walking home from somewhere. I don't know if it was like a party or if it was somewhere late at night. It was most likely a party. And it was guys just screaming nigger outside of their truck at me as I was just walking home. Even on like dating apps, people say that they don't prefer Black people, or they don't prefer, Asians or Hispanics and stuff like that. So I've seen racism exist on dating apps. So I've had my instances, but largely I've noticed it a lot going to a PWI, which is a predominantly white institution. There's been people just like, I remember instances where people were like putting nooses out on the campuses and just saying really racist things during, campus events or sports tailgates and things like that. So that's mostly where I've experienced racism. And I can probably bet that I've experienced it as a child. It just didn't register to me that it was racism or somebody was, I didn't fully take subtle things in, like people looking at me a certain way. I would just wonder, like, why are these white people acting so different towards me and my family? And then, as you progress and as you get older, you start to put the puzzle pieces together. So,
Right.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that. I'm pretty sure I've experienced a lot of racism as I was younger, but for some reason, I've always kind of tried to overlook it or maybe give people the benefit of the doubt. But now that I'm older and have actually experienced like blatant racism, I can look back and be like, you know what, a lot of those situations, now that I look at it now, they were really racist. So I think a lot of us actually, can say the same thing.
Exactly. Even when going to a club or a bar, you notice their dress codes and certain things like that where it's just blatant racism. So
Yeah.
Not all of it is necessarily something real big. It may be something subtle. You've been waiting already, and then somebody else come right in and they get seated and taken care of. Something simple as that.
It was a restaurant in Memphis, Tennessee, where I heard that they were seating their Black patrons on the upper part of their restaurant, so that way, white patrons won't be able to see them as they're walking into the restaurant. And then they got blasted on social media about it as well. So it's subtle and it's everywhere.
Right. Anybody else want to share their experience? Okay. Well, I'll share mine. We're from Conway, Arkansas, so it is predominantly white. So I think for me, for a long time, I'm like Alton, who's from Conway too. For me, I felt like I thought it was normal. I grew up in the predominantly white side of town, across the street from the golf course. We were the only Black family on our street. So a lot of things happened. We went to school, Conway High is predominantly white. So at that time, so for me, I experienced racism, like Drakkar said, probably just didn't know it growing up. But as I got older, starting to know something is different. I had a best friend that's white, and her parents definitely showed the difference. Hey, you were over their house, and kind of kept a separation because of who she was attracted to. She was attracted to African-American men, and she had a Black best friend. So it took me a while, and then it hurt for a long time. I was like, what's the difference? We live in the same side of town that you live on. You live on top of the hill. We live two streets down the hill. So, we go to the same school. I just didn't understand and didn't get it for a long time. And then, of course, getting pulled over around Conway, Arkansas, getting pulled over because you made the wrong turn and you didn't. And I had actually got a charge, but it got thrown out for destruction of government operation. I didn't even know what that was. And I'm like, what is that? But I got a bogus charge because the officer didn't like what I said because I knew my rights. My uncle works for the police department. I have friends and family, and so I knew my rights. And I'm Malby, so I would, say, hey, I know I didn't do anything, and then they would give me a bogus charge, and then I have to spend my day in court. They wouldn't show up, so it was just that back and forth. But at the end of the day, it still fell on me. So I felt like I was defeated, even though the charge was dismissed. They didn't show up. They didn't have any proof, but I still took my full day to stay in court. To get pushed, because they see you come in court, they're not going to put you at the first. If you got kids, you come first. If you go to school, you come first. And so you have to really wait to your turn. And then when I finally got up there, it's, 3:00 in the afternoon. I've been up here since 8:30 waiting to go to court for them not to show, just to waste my time. So it's just, I learned then it was crooked police. That was my first experience, as well as knowing family and friends that have dealt with them. But racism has definitely affected me. Now I feel like, I can tell the difference, even with the pandemic going on. Now people are a lot nicer. I have people that, at the store, I'll take your basket, I'll do this, and I'm like, you don't have to go the extra mile, but that just lets me know that racism, people are realizing or don't want to come off like they're racist, so they're trying to go the extra mile. So that's my personal experience with racism. Anybody else have anything they want to say on that? Okay, cool. The next question is, why do you think other races do not acknowledge racism? Why do you think? Anybody can jump in anytime and just say,
they're uncomfortable.
Sure.
They're just uncomfortable. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to start the conversation. They don't want to unravel the reality of everything that's going on because they're so comfortable keeping it to themselves and just sweeping it under the rug, and they just don't want to acknowledge it. And they also just don't want to get into the conversation. But that's how we start tackling these things, is having these conversations.
I watched.
Go ahead, Brittany.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I watched a short video, and it was one of the guys that support one of Trump's groups or whatever. It's like into something, but he had a sit down with. Say it again.
Antifa.
Yes, I sat down and I watched him talk to Charles Barkley, and the things that this man said really amazed me. He said that he didn't want, like, situations he didn't feel like he had to address with racism because he liked his superiority and he liked his privilege. And if he could help it, he would do anything to keep his kids from becoming minorities. He did not want equality because he felt like the white bread should be the predominant race and should be the superiority race. And you'll be surprised how many people think like that. And that's why they won't address that, because if I address this, then I lose what I see as my power and my privilege, because then it's nothing special about me, but I'm on equal playing field. Mm-hmm. I think that's another reason why people won't address or acknowledge racism, because it challenges them beyond what they're capable or beyond what they want to acknowledge, because it will take away something from them that they feel that they have the right to have in the first place, which is a illness, could be.
And I think there's a level of accountability that people don't want to have, right? So if you have these type of conversations, you have to then say, how have I been adding to this narrative of racism, right? I have to acknowledge that maybe my parents taught me XYZ. Maybe my grandparents or my church taught me XYZ. Maybe I, because of how I was raised or taught, I have said XYZ, or I've said a slur, or I laughed at some type of joke that was racist, right? So I think that's part of the issue as well, that people of other races don't want to talk about racism, because then I have to take accountability and acknowledge how I have added to this system or upheld this system. So yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I love all that. Does Hannah have anything to say?
Yes. So with my family, what I've seen, I've had a lot of conversations with them, and it's just a lot of ignorance. Like we're from a really small place in Mexico where they weren't taught the history of America. And so it's having to explain this slavery, even beyond that, why the police even exist. And so they've learned a lot. And so now they're just like, okay, like, no, we need to speak about it because this is not right. But it's just a lack of ignorance, a lack of education, and they just don't know the history.
That is true. Brandi, do you have anything to say?
Yes, I actually have something to elaborate on that one. I watched, it was Dave Ramsey, which is kind of weird, Dave Ramsey talking about racism. I know. But he went on to explain that it is a lot of ignorance, and it's ignorance that's been passed down through generation after generation. Because being from a small town in East Texas, I've seen racism firsthand from my grandparents, and some from my own family. I hate to say that, it's still there and it's still prevalent within my family, and people say that it's passed down, it's passed down, it's passed. But when do we stop that cycle? That's the problem. When do we break out of that? Because I remember thinking as a child and hearing this stuff coming from my grandparents and thinking, hey, no, that's not okay. That's not okay to say that. That's not what a God-fearing person should be talking like. Especially if y'all all say that you're Christian and you love everybody. That's not what God preaches. So it's a lack of, and then my eyes really got opened up when I moved to Dallas. And I think that it's just a lot of people are not going out and experience and being around other types of people. And they're ignorant and they're stuck in their small towns, or they're stuck in their own little cliques of white people. And people need to break out and interact with other people and get to learn those people as a person instead of as a skin color.
I agree. Yes. The Bowsers, did y'all have anything to add?
No.
Okay. TonyBo, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I was gonna add something, to Hannia and Markel's point of the lack of education and ignorance and the level of accountability that we need people to take. For the people who do realize the truth, I almost feel that there's a sense of shame, embarrassment, and guilt, and they're not confident enough to speak up, even though that they know the truth. Because some people are just pure ignorance, and then they tie it into patriotic pride and try to tie it to the flag and the country and the history. And when we tell our story and we tell the educational part of our history, they try to downplay it, and they hang on to that patriotic pride. But for the people who do acknowledge it, I know some people that, have been around, just like Marky, you were saying when you were at the store. People are like, oh, here, let me get the basket. I got it for you. I've been around white people or white friends that want to pay all the time. You get what I'm saying?
Let them pay. No.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say, let them take your card. Because that's reparations in a way. That's reparations. I'm gonna let you do it.
And they feel these gestures are reparations, and I appreciate them for that. But I also challenge them, especially the leaders, to speak out, because you can't stay silent in fear of rejection of what's going to happen when you do speak out because you have a high position or because your friends are associated with a specific political party. So I think a lot of people, they want to speak out, they're just not confident enough. They haven't really gotten to that mental point of examining their conscience enough to just be like, you know what, we got to say something. And with George Floyd, now it's almost like, okay, now you want to say something.
This isn't even like a political movement though. Like this is like, these are humans being murdered.
Right.
That is so true. Okay, so we're gonna go right into the next question because it follows what we were talking about. How do you deal with other races that do not want to acknowledge their privilege, such as coworkers, friends, or family? So if you have people that extended family, whoever, friends, coworkers that don't want to acknowledge their privilege, because I've had a few debates with a couple people about the differences that some of you have talked about, like Drakkar saying that he saw in Memphis, Tennessee, that the whites were able to be seated on this side so they won't have to look that's a privilege. So how will y'all go and talk, however you feel comfortable talking about, how do you address that, or have you ever experienced that?
Well, the other day I was at Target, and I was actually there to do a good deed. I was there to send the management team and the HR staff a thank you card for their contribution to the protest that I held on Saturday. And I was sitting there waiting for a parking spot I was waiting on somebody to back out. And this lady, she hurry up and sped around, even though I had my signal light on, and she pulled into the parking spot. Now, I said I can handle this 2 ways, but I want to calculate it on camera this time because everything is being filmed right now. So I said, guys, watch. I'm going to be polite to her. She got out of the car and said, excuse me, ma'am. I was waiting on that parking spot, and I was sitting here with my signal light on. She was like, oh, well, too bad. Like, you know. And so I said, okay. I gathered myself together, and I went into the store, and it was the first person I saw when I got into the store. And I started another video. And I told her, I said, ma'am, I said, don't do that to nobody else because they could have turned really violent real fast. And she said, well, I had a right to park there. I said, well, ma'am, you don't think that I had a right to park there? I said, that's privilege. That's your privilege kicking in. And see, and when you uncomfortable, sometimes you have to be uncomfortable doing certain things in order for growth to take place. And I think that the racism is getting filmed on a whole nother level, so it's forcing people to be accountable for their ill-mannered behavior. I even watched this lady walk off as she was cussing me out in the store, stuck up her middle finger, but yet I was still looked as if I was the person starting the incident. It was like if you was white, you was right in that moment. And so we have to call those things out. Like, you can do it in a peaceful way. You don't have to, because everybody approach is different. But it's making people aware of, okay, well, maybe you're not aware of this behavior before now, but I'm telling you what it is. So now I've planted the seed in your mind. So the next time you're going to think twice about pulling in before you scope out the thing to see if somebody else is sitting there. And we have to take action like that. If we don't, then it's going to be another 450 years before we start actively seeing change.
Mm-hmm. Agree. Anybody else have anything to say?
Well, Brittany, being on, like you said, we have to start talking about it, but being a person who's experienced police brutality or, the cops going against you in any type of way, how do you stand up? I'm asking because I'm in this panel to learn from the leaders and activists like you guys. How do you have the courage to even stand up to do certain things like that? Because me experiencing what I've experienced is kind of like, I just let it go, or it really don't even matter to me. But it really does matter because you have to have the courage, you have to stand up. But it's hard for me to even speak on it. That's why I'm kind of reserved. But how do you do it?
So when it comes down to the police, we all know you have to use wisdom, especially for us, okay? So the best way to address a situation like that is to get their name and badge number and contact the DA's office after you leave that scene safely. You contact the people that represent your neighborhood, like your congressman, a congresswoman, and let them know this is going on in your neighborhood. Now, our tax dollars pay you, so what are you going to do about it? Because if you're not going to do anything about it, then it's time for you to lose your platform as our leader in our community. Because like I said, we are paying your salary. And if you don't think that it's power in numbers, look at all the changes that are happening in 24-hour laws like the Breonna Taylor law. Stuff that's happened that politicians tell us, oh, it's going to be another 5 to 7 years before we can actively implement this. No, people, they are moving now. hold your representatives accountable for what you're paying them to do. Because without your tax dollars, they don't get paid. And who get uncomfortable when they not making money? I know I do.
Me too. Me too.
They do too.
Marquez, I want to ask you.
Stuff happen.
Marquez, I want to ask you from a professional standpoint in mental health. Just like Datavian said, if something's happened to someone, and something's happened to a lot of people, and they don't feel comfortable talking about it, what kind of coping skills or mechanisms will you give someone? Advice would you give them to process that? You know, if you've dealt with something, police brutality, racism, that definitely is doing something to you mentally and emotionally. How would you recommend, and what's your advice for that?
I think I would tell people the first thing is to always engage in self-care, right? Because I know a lot of people, and I definitely don't want to stereotype or generalize, but I know a lot of people, especially Black men, tend to push things down, keep working, keep going, and never either talk about what's happened, never talk about their feelings, and they just keep going. So I think the first thing you do is you have to engage in self-care and talk to someone, right? And I know everyone can't afford counseling. Everyone isn't maybe comfortable with counseling, but even if it's talking to someone that you respect, admire, someone that you're close to, just talking about it instead of just pushing it down, acting like it doesn't happen. I think that's always the first step of kind of dealing with any type of traumatic experience that you've experienced, whether it was from a police officer or a neighbor or all that can be traumatic, right? And so I think self-care, engaging in. And so when I say self-care, because I don't want to assume people know what that means, but self-care, what are you doing to take care of yourself, right? Versus, because I hear a lot of people say, I just work. That's how I kind of get through it, which is nothing wrong clearly working, because we all need money. But like self-care is the things you do outside of work. What are you doing to relax yourself? What are you doing to enjoy life versus just working, ignoring that the problem is there? And who are you talking to? Whether it's a brother, whether it's a friend, whether it's a pastor that you trust. Like, who are you talking to get some type of wisdom from? And to me, that's always the first step when it comes to trying to manage any type of like trauma that you've been through. Who are you talking to? Are you telling somebody about it? I will always advocate for counseling, but I know everyone can't afford it or don't live in a city that has counselors. So if you don't have that, there's all types of books and websites that teach you how to kind of process trauma. So even if you can't do counseling or don't feel comfortable with counseling, there's books and again there's websites. It's like now in this 21st century, there's so much out there that can kind of help you process.
I also want to piggyback off of what you're saying right now when it comes down to being connected to different resources for everybody to, whether you can afford it or not. They have universities where students are wrapping up their undergraduates or their graduate degrees. They need those volunteer hours, so their counseling service is free. I just wanted to throw that out there because that's not something that a lot of people don't are aware of. They have a free resource for mental health.
Thank you, Brittany, for that.
Thank you for sharing.
Yes.
Yeah, good information.
I appreciate it.
That's a good question. Thank you, Datavian.
I will follow up with you, Brittany, about that, what you just said.
Okay.
Good. I like that. Okay, so we're going to go to our next question is, how do you all feel this time around with the movement? How do you feel that it's different or it's not different? What's your personal, and I want everybody please to answer this one because it's just your personal feeling of how do you feel this time around now that we have, they've been marching. We've been marching before. We've been rioting before. We've experienced, it's not the first person, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 100 person that got killed from police brutality, and that we've seen it on national TV. So how do you think, or if you even think that it's different this time around?
I'll go. I've gone to a few protests in the past, and I also went to a recent one. And in the past, there was not a lack of energy, but like a lack of anger. And I think this time around, people have had enough. Like, this is it. And it's so emotional, like, to be there. I was there when Drakkar was there. And it was so emotional. Like, I've never cried at a protest, but I was, like, actually just, like, crying of everyone's energy. I
got choked up, too.
Yes, I'm getting choked right now just thinking about it.
I think what she said is key. The energy is different. I can't really place my finger on it because, you know, we've done the marches, the protests, but like people all over the world showing their support, that's different than what I've seen before previously. So just the whole energy around it feels different to me. I can't explain it. I know we still have a long way to go, but I think great things are going to come from this.
Yeah.
People are finally fed up.
Yeah.
The BS, honestly. I think that's what the energy changes, is people are just fed up with it.
Yeah.
Anytime that you get the wealthy to care about a poverty problem, it's a problem. And I think that that's what we're seeing this go around. And that's what the real change is that's happening with this movement. But if it, like, I just want to say this to the people that are listening, do not get tired. We can't afford to get tired. If anything, when you tired, it's time to kick into overdrive or to switch shifts with somebody else that they could take it. But it's all about the marathon. Like, a lot of people taught a marathon and Nipiosu, and I salute them for that. And I thank them for giving us that back in our minds. But this is truly a marathon. When I can't lead, I need to be an active follower. Or if I can't be an active follower, if my brother or my sister is tired, no matter what ethnicity they are, it's time for me to pick up that baton, and it's time for us to have that open communication so that we could effectively communicate how we finna switch gears here.
Love it.
Yeah, so I feel this one with the knee on the neck was way closer to, I guess, my heart, because I see a lot of things. I see police brutality, but I really never talk about it just because I've experienced. So having the knee on the neck situation, and I've had police brutality when I had a knee on my neck, it really just hurt me, and it made me go back and actually watch the video that I had that they recorded with the officer knee on my neck, and I just thank God that I'm still here, and I thank God that he had his knee on my neck probably like for 40 seconds, and this one just really was so. It wasn't just the world; it's just really me and my personal experience. I just kind of cried because I was just like, that really could be me, you know. This is really happening in the world. It's not going to stop happening. And so I am going to push to talk about it more, to try to express myself a lot more. So this in the world now, it is changing. I see the world is doing a lot more. Everybody is saying the world is tired, but I'm actually tired, and I'm really ready to speak out. I really don't speak on it, and I keep saying it a lot, but this one really changed me to where I have to do something. I have to get the courage. I have to stand up for, you know, our beliefs. I have to stand up for the rights of social injustice. It's just a lot of things that I can do, and I know that I have to do something because I have experience and I'm still here. There's people that's not here who's experienced it, and they don't have a story to tell because they're not here. Their family can talk about it, but they can't talk about it. So I have to be the one to at least say something. It might not be much, but it's just a step. And I know it's kind of hard. I'm shaking, but I'm just thankful to be here. And I know this experience and what's going on in the world is making me move, because I've been silent for 6 years. But so personally, it's a lot that I got to do, and it's a lot that I have to do just for the people who's just like a fallen soldier, for the lives that's been lost through police brutality. It's just time for me to step up. So this experience is definitely a lot for me.
Good. Thank you, brother. Yes. And I would just piggyback off that. As a sister, and as a mother, I feel like, you know, I don't know what the future will hold, but I think it would definitely be different, especially with the new laws that we have in place. But I worry about my son. I have a young Black man that I'm training, bringing him up in the right way, and having him to tell him to watch and make sure that, you know, tell him you have to be accountable for yourself. You have to watch your surroundings for yourself. the times are different from when I was growing up. I felt like I had more trust. My family, my parents had more trust into the community. I think along the way, we've lost that trust in our community. We don't want nobody to tell our kids anything. And I think just the community, the family and the community that we had, it kind of dwindled, but now it's coming back up. Now people are saying, hey, your son is getting pulled over. I might not even know your son, but I'm probably going to stop and start recording or try to see how I can intervene in the situation so it won't be another George Floyd or it won't be another Datavian. We won't have those, or another Breonna Taylor. We won't have those if people start policing the police or just, standing up for what is right. Whether somebody's in a grocery store going off on Brittinee for a parking spot, just saying, diffusing the situation. But I feel like it is going to be a change. People are tired. We all are tired. That's why we wanted to talk about it today. We're all tired. We feel that something needs to be done. People of color are struggling mentally and emotionally. I can't say the most because I see in some cities, the minorities are out there, the white people and the Hispanics and the Arabs, they're out there more than the Black people. So I can't just say, you can't put that in a box anymore and say, our people. Now we have to really look past the color. We as a whole, what are we going to do as a city, as a country, as a nation, as a state? What are we going to do? And it makes me want to be more of an advocate, not only for mental and emotional health, but an advocate for civil rights, an advocate for our future. We have kids that are coming up behind us, and I really feel like our generation, everybody that's on this call, our generation, that we really are now the leaders, and they're looking at us to see what are we doing. And then we have people like Drakkar, Hannia, and Brittany that I know that have been out into rallies, Alton as well, been out there. But then you have someone like myself. I haven't been to any protests because I'm torn. I want to support, but I don't want to go out there and, be mixed up in it. But I do, feel bad. So I want to pose this question to the panel. How are you personally dealing with, or how would you, what recommendation would you give for somebody who, like myself, don't know how to truly support, but want to support? So you always can't give monetarily or go out to every event. Brittany, I know you do a lot of things. I can't be at everything, but I do support. So how do you help people that want to support?
So I feel like, there's multiple ways to be an advocate, right? And so I always tell people, just because you aren't marching or out there physically, don't let anyone shame you for that, or don't you in yourself feel guilty. So we all have a platform, right? So if you can't protest, maybe you can give money to different organizations. If you can't give money, we all have influence in our immediate circles, right? So if I can't give money and if I can't physically go protest, I'm talking to people in my inner circle, whether they're social media, whether they're sisters or brothers. And so I'm steadily sharing. I'm sharing information on my Facebook. I'm sharing information on other social media platforms. So I think there's more ways. There's more than one way to be an advocate, not just one way, right? So if you can't protest, and there's nothing wrong with saying, I'm scared to go out there, police out there, you got tanks out there, right? So there's no shame in saying that I don't feel comfortable, but what am I comfortable with, right? And so I think we all have a part to play, and to me it just isn't one main thing that you have to do to say, oh, if you don't go protest, you're not even serious about X, Y, Z. I think that's unfair. I think we all have influence in multiple ways, and you choose kind of how you engage.
Also, the protests you see. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. No,
you see a lot of people who you just know don't have the best intentions. Like some people just went for a selfie and then they just left. So
yeah,
definitely, I think the most powerful way is just having influence in your inner circle, like he said, talking to your relatives, your friends, calling them out when they need to be called out.
Come on.
Coworkers, I think right now is the time to call people out on their BS.
Call them out. Yeah.
I think that a lot of people have that misunderstanding about how to advocate in this moment. We can all, like everybody else is saying, we can all advocate in different ways. And it's respect the self that helps you become a more powerful advocate. So when you're dealing with, okay, well, what do? I'm not this, but respect your position within the body that we all functioning in, because we one body with many parts. So everybody can't do the same thing. So
preach.
More knowledgeable about politics and learning what type of Democratic or Republican parties have failed us, and learning from their mistakes. What policies do we lack? Reaching out and doing, getting maybe like a letter committee together to send out to the people that represent us. Hey, we're outraged about this, and this, the third. That I might myself, because I'm out in the field advocating, like maybe I can't even think about that right now because I'm out here serving on the front line. We all have to find our niche and work that thing, because everybody is needed hands-on in this moment. Even if your power might be to the youth. This is how you create a protest. This is what this looks like. This is how it has changed things in the history, and this is how you would organize this if we need to revisit this for any case or whatever in the future. It's so many things for us to do, and I think that we need to stop having so many chiefs and get more Indians on the scene, because you got everybody trying to be the leader, but what are we really effectively changing if everybody's the leader but they don't have no following behind them to support?
Mm-hmm.
Can I add to that? I always see things on Instagram to where you can swipe up and sign a petition for like Breonna Taylor or for any other law that needs to be passed. I always see posts where you can call, a deputy's office or a government official's office and let them know that, they need to make changes to their laws in their, counties that they oversee. I mean, you can have panel discussions like this virtually with people in your circle. You can educate yourself, watch documentaries, talk to your friends who are, of color, and just be vulnerable, and then just stress how you want to be an ally or an advocate. I really just think it takes people thrusting themselves into it, and then just learning how to, work for the struggle and just to voice our opinions and things like that. So just to add to what you said, Brittany.
Yeah, for sure. Love that.
TonyBo, did you have anything to add? You look like you wanted to say something.
Oh, Drakkar just said it. I said exactly what I was thinking. I love what everybody says, so I don't have anything to add. It was great.
I think also telling people the story of, like, me, I had to tell my family Breonna Taylor's story, like what exactly happened to her, because they'll just see like, oh, they haven't been arrested, but they don't really know the backstory of what actually happened to her. So telling people this is what happened to her, like, that's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think it means more, like, for Hannia in your position, coming from you as opposed to them reading it on like Fox or like reading it in some other, news outlet. It'd be that much more powerful coming from you because they see you. You have more, what's the word I'm looking for? Huh?
I said influence.
Influence and credibility. They see they can level with you. They can listen to what you're saying and then comprehend it, as opposed to being tugged both ways via media, if that makes sense.
Not even that, but my parents only watch Spanish news, and they have not mentioned Breonna Taylor at all, actually. Like, I have not heard her name at all.
Wow, I did not know that.
I didn't know that either.
So is you call the Spanish news station, hey, this is what's going on around the world. We as a people, we're not going to sit here and allow you to neglect the real news that's going on. And this is how you hold them accountable as well. Or when you used to call the news station, because I know, like, my first time going out protesting was actually out in Dallas. A lot of people were saying, oh, you shouldn't go out because it's dangerous, but they didn't show on the media that the rally And for the most part of the protest, it was very peaceful until the community leaders there or the organization leaders there had to announce that the white supremacists were there with their guns, or when we're trying to cross over intersection, the police are actively trying to run us over with their vehicles. So then at that point in time, you have entice people to, or provoke people to put out your windows, because we just out here expressing our First Amendment, which we have that constitutional right, and we tax dollars, so you can't stop us from walking in the street. We have that right. So it's holding the media accountable too for what they're portraying, because a lot of Black people are getting the backlash for looting, but those are FBI agents setting buildings on fire.
Right.
I love what you're saying, Brittany. I could share a personal experience. I went to the UTA, University of Texas, Arlington, and, you know, I was shocked. I was surprised. You know, I'm scrolling on my LinkedIn, and this was after the George Floyd situation that had happened. And I was just surprised at the silence from the university, considering the demographics, considering how much African Americans make up their past and current population, Hispanics. I mean, it's such a diverse school, and you know, we're proud of that. And so, like Brittany, to your point, you know, they had posted something about, you know, like a new cancer research program, and, you know, I said, hey, you know, hey, this is all cool, congratulations, blah blah blah, but can you guys say something in regards to the current state of the nation and George Floyd and your students who are paying you thousands of dollars for their education, your students who are participating in the programs and everything that's making you guys successful, that could have been one of those students with a knee on the neck? And I was surprised that the next day, the university president wrote a letter to the students, and it was incredible, you know. And so, to your point, I wasn't at the protest. I did go to the protest eventually, but I wasn't there, but my voice was heard that somebody took it seriously. And recently they had a panel discussion of with over like 700 students and faculty and staff. So I just wanted to add.
Okay.
That's awesome.
See, everybody can do this big thing, this big gesture. I think that's what people are expecting. Like, if I come out today, I got to do something big, but something that's small. You triggered, you caused a domino effect, and you brought awareness to the university. Hey, we giving you all our dollars. After we leave your institution, we still have debt behind coming to your school. We got the bumper cars. We got the T-shirts from this facility. But however, what are you saying to address it? And so the fact that they did turn around and do a panel discussion, and you got over 700 people there, that's effective change. Mm-hmm. I commend you for that. Good job on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Anybody else have anything to add or share before we move on to the next question? All right, so how do you feel about, we've talked about the racial injustice and holding people accountable. What are your personal plans moving forward to hold people accountable? How are you holding yourself accountable? And that's really my question. Anybody?
So with companies, the ones that did not speak about this, then I didn't show my support anymore, because that says a lot about the company. Same with people. Like, if people aren't speaking out, then why not? It's just showing something about them too.
Yes, that is true.
Absolutely. I was disgusted with Starbucks, and you know, for them to try to ban their employees from wearing Black Lives Matter apparel, I mean, that's nonsense. I think going forward, as far as, like, you know, just making sure that we don't get, because everybody has their morals and their values and their characters and their beliefs and their foreign concepts of how they were raised and how we should conduct ourselves. And so, you know, of course, to keep our character straight all the way and be on the righteous side of things, But my plan is to hold people accountable. You saw that in California, the Attorney General, they passed some policies banning the use of chokeholds. They added that police officers are now required to intervene if they see a police officer using excessive force. You can no longer shoot at moving targets. And then I know this is a mental health panel in Albuquerque. Now they're being conscious of the homeless and the sick people, the drug addicts on the street, not to just come in and just start attacking them. And also, excuse me.
Right, walk in on it.
Right.
Right.
Like,
He's like, let me handle this 1 second.
Like,
let me handle this.
we discussing something.
All right. Anybody else have anything to add? I think he's
Sorry about that.
okay.
Well, I can go from it's more on holding myself accountable because I've had personal experiences and I've had a voice. I've done multiple events, so why not speak up about my own situations or how I can make a change? Just do something. If I can have an event or a party or something like that that have hundreds of people, why can't I have a voice and do something that's going on into the world, something that's positive? How can I tell somebody my story or tell the next person? So the biggest thing is holding myself accountable. Like going on this panel is something that my sister, she asked me to do, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. People have asked me to, I mean, honestly, people have asked me to share my story multiple times. I've had police officers reached out as a couple groups, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do it because I don't want to put myself in the limelight, but I could help somebody else just by talking, or even if a police officer hear what I'm saying, or somebody who's had police brutality, or just anybody, so my biggest thing is hold myself accountable because I can do these other social events. Why can I make a change and speak on what's going on? I have a lot of people that follow me, so just my voice is being heard in a different way is a big thing. So holding myself accountable to make a difference in what's going on in the world is the biggest thing now for me.
Yeah, to tag off of that, I feel like the same thing, holding myself accountable as far as like if I notice something racially injustice or whatever it is, not turning the other way, but saying something about it or speaking up. I mean, I can't tell you how many times this last few weeks when I've seen somebody pulled over, I'm like, is that a brother or sister? They all right? Do I need to go? You all right, sister? You all right, King? Whatever I got to do. And then using that within my circle of influence as well, because I think that's going to have the biggest impact. I want to go out and be out there, but for me, realistically, I can't do that all the time. So, it's talking to my people around me. Hey, how are you doing? Because, mental health, like you said, everybody don't have those resources. So, if you can't go to a counselor, at least talk to somebody how you doing, So, yeah, holding myself accountable and not letting stuff pass, like no more passes. If you're not speaking up to join the fight and be on our side, then you're against us, honestly. So no more passes.
I love it.
A way that I have expressed, or what I would do to be better about accountability, is for a long time, based off of things that I have been through, I've seen a lot of and experienced a lot of injustices. And I can't actually get into my case against my ex-employer that will potentially go to the Supreme Court. But because of the incident that I experienced, they would take, I could tell you guys this, they would take my images from the security camera at work and take it to the gun range and use my photo as target practice.
Oh, no.
So
Whoa.
I just wanted y'all to have a picture of the type of racism that I encountered that inspired me to do something different with school. For a long time, I was a pre-physical therapy major. And I just always felt like, that was for something like to have stability in life. And because my family, they healthcare workers. And so it was kind of like, still not wanting to go against the grain, but knowing that things in life happen when you're not living on purpose and you're not in your lane that you're supposed to be living on. Is trying to slow you down and try to define. But when I was placed in that work environment and I experienced that, I know that it was something that I had to step into who I'm called to be in life. And because of that, I switched over to industrial industrial organizational psychology. And what they do is they go into businesses, or can do, they go into businesses and revamp their policies and procedures, because it's many more people who experience systematic racism in their places of business, and they don't have someone advocating for them, or they have an HR department that does not back them. And so either they end up experiencing bad mental health, or they end up having to lose their job. Why should somebody have to lose their job, lose their finances, put their lives in jeopardy or whatever because of certain individuals can't conduct themselves? So let's change the policies and procedures. And if they can't abide by that, then they need to be the ones losing, not the people that are falling victim to them. I also, I'm in the understudy of becoming a councilwoman or mayor of the city of Fort Worth. And I think that a lot of young kids need to see what we can do to get into these positions, to start making these calls, to create effective changes. If they're not going to do it for us, if there's no blueprint for us, sometimes you just got to step out there and believe what you believe, and know and believe in who you are. And I'm not nobody, but I'm going to be somebody that's going to do something about it. And I think that we all got to come to that point. I don't know all the ins and out of politics, but guess what? Because I have stepped out and believed in something more than myself, I've been sitting in the meetings with the mayor in the city of Fort Worth, the police chief, last week, residing judges, actually the ex-mayor's opponent. And just when you get in line with life, the divine start giving you people along the way. You heard that saying, your father attracts your child, is real. And as long as you want to do something, reach out to somebody, because everybody that knows somebody that knows somebody. So this is how, if you want to see the change in the police force, become a cop. As much as we don't talk about it, become a police officer to hold these other police officers accountable, or to entice change in your community. Because people say, well, he's a police officer, I could do the same. They do that with rap, right? Everybody seeing these rappers, everybody in the neighborhood taking off doing rap, so everybody want to rap. We have to become those type of leaders, even if it just starts with ourselves, because change does start with ourselves.
That's so true. Thank you so much, Brittany, for that. Anybody else have anything to add to that? Good. Okay, so we'll go into our next question and this will be our last question. How do you think moving forward, we already know it's not going back to normal. So moving forward, we know what we're going to do. Sorry, I lost my place on here. But moving forward, we all said what we're going to do different, including myself, having a platform such as Mask Off Panel, and just talking about it with my friends, my family, making everybody aware and checking in with each other mentally. That's my last question, is how are you doing mentally and emotionally? Are you doing the self-care that you need to do for yourself during this pandemic? And what advice would you give our viewers that will be watching our panel discussion? What advice would you give them how to deal with it mentally and emotionally?
So I think one thing I would tell people that there's something called transgenerational trauma, and intergenerational trauma that we all have experienced, but especially for Black people, part of that transgenerational trauma is racism, right? So it's racism trauma that has been here since the 1600s. And so it just, from generation to generation to generation, that trauma had just went from our great-great-great-grandparents to our grandparents, to our parents, to us. So it's like, it's so important to recognize that trauma and take care of yourself, right? And so if that means I'm not gonna watch the news for today, because again, seeing people shot on these videos is traumatic. And a lot of times you think it's not, but it is, right? Seeing these images that they keep playing on CNN or, on Instagram of, the police officers shooting and choking people and all that, that's just real trauma. And so I encourage people to, again, take the time you need. If that means you know what, for the next 2 days, I'm not going to talk about it. That's okay. You don't have to be on, you don't have to be an advocate, what I'm saying, 24/7. Sometimes you might have to tell a friend or whoever, like, I don't want to talk about it today, or I need a break for today. That doesn't mean you don't care. That doesn't mean you're not involved. But sometimes we have to focus on self-care, because if I'm going to be an advocate for change, I can't do that if I'm tired, if I'm going, if I feel like I'm losing my mind, if I'm having all this anxiety. And so you have to focus on you and take that time.
Right. And I would say for me, I have been celebrating little victories or victories that we have. Like a lot of companies now are making Juneteenth a holiday, a paid holiday. I love that. I think that's a victory. Growing up, I heard about Juneteenth. I thought it was like a festival. Black people get together, they barbecuing, they playing good music. That's
Black
just what
people barbecue.
that was just the lack of knowledge that I had about Juneteenth until someone educated me and said, hey, it's more to that. It's more to that. So people who don't know what Juneteenth is, it is coming up tomorrow, June 19th, which is also known as Freedom Day. Juneteenth is a state holiday in Texas. It was started in 1980, and a number of other states have followed. The day is also celebrated outside of the United States with organizations in a number of countries, using the day to recognize the end of slavery and to celebrate the cultural achievement in African Americans. So Juneteenth is tomorrow. I will be out with my colors, supporting and representing for Juneteenth. I'm already off, but I'm gonna act like I'm off for Juneteenth. I'm gonna act like that I'm a paid holiday. I'm off. And I am just thinking that's a great victory for us as a people, as a country, as a nation, to say for companies, not everybody, but I have seen companies that starting to have put letters out there. I think it's a great thing that business have started putting things out there to let you know we hear you. Even the ones that are not of color. We went to a restaurant last weekend, and it was a predominantly white-owned restaurant, and they said, we hear you. We are here for you. And that made me feel so good as a paying customer. I know there's all kind of organizations on Facebook, support Black business. And of course, yes, we want to support them. We also want to support others that support us. So I don't care if you're pink, purple, white, Black, Chinese. If you have made a statement and we know that you are here for us, I'm going to support you. So I don't feel like taking my money all the way to the Black community only. I want to spread my money out across, and especially that everybody support us. So that's where I think the victories have came. I love to see people are recognizing, understand exactly what Juneteenth is, not just a day for Black people to get together and barbecue and listen to good music.
Absolutely. I also would like to say that, like, when it comes down to doing something different, get outside of your norm. That's how you do something different. At best, you're going to hang out with somebody that don't look like you on Juneteenth, do that and become more knowledgeable. Or like when you talking about like moving forward, how can we like take them, like with me, whenever I come from protesting, I try not to get on social media because there's a lot of arguing on there. So for me, my self-care act is I'm not going to argue with you. When I unplug, I need to unplug. A lot of people do a lot of tit-for-tat online. I don't get into that. A lot of people come to me because I am an advocate. Hey, what do you feel about this? Well, what do you feel about that? And I put the ball back in their court, and that's how I distress sometimes. So I just wanted to.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything to share on that?
I just tag off of what everybody else is saying about unplugging. That's the biggest thing. Because like the last few weeks when things were everywhere, you know, that played a really heavy part of my mental state and had me down, if I'm being totally honest and transparent. There was even a point I was watching the news and, you know, a little tears shed down my eyes. I was like, come on now, what's going on? But I mean, that's just to state the fact of how serious and how heavy things can get. So, you know, making sure we unplug and not feeling bad about unplugging, because if you plug in every day, you're going to go crazy. And the biggest thing is you need that time to recharge, get that energy back, and then, you know, hey, get back out there.
Absolutely. And I think having, you know, as well, having people, friends of different races is good. Hannia, you my friend. I'm gonna call you my friend. You my friend. Brandi, you definitely my friend. So I love, because we get to piggyback off of each other, you know. So I think that's always important. Is I tell people we don't have to agree to disagree. Everybody's their own individual person. We always don't think alike. We always don't agree on things, but we still can coexist. So I think that's what the world needs. A lot more love. So I did more love and less hate. I think that's what we all need. And if we're giving that, people, it's going to manifest. People are going to see it. I believe in good vibes and energy. Whatever energy you giving off is going to just continue to have that domino effect. So, you know, I love having a diverse friend group. I think it's healthy to have people of different races and just piggyback off of and feed. And you can learn from each other. Like Hannia said, she's teaching her family back in Mexico what it's like to be a American and to experience some of the things. So keeping it within your family, I thank you, Hannia, for that, because you don't have to do that. Share Breonna's Taylor story. So on behalf of her, thank you for that, because you don't have to do that. So thank you so much for that.
And also with culture, we as a culture, if we see other ethnicities supporting us, we need to also kick in and support what they got going on, because you still have people that's being deported for being over here illegally, but who is the real legal immigrants over here? So on things like that, we have to stick together and to acknowledge we are more powerful in numbers than we are as a single culture. So it's bigger than just Black people, but I understand why we focus in and keyed in on us right now. But understand, after the microscope is off our back, we need to also pull into other cultures, and because we are friends and family. We see these people every day. We have to walk, talk beside them every day. We are family. We out here on earth, and we all have to exist together. And it's going to be a long walk if we don't learn how to coexist together.
Mm-hmm.
True. Agree. All right. Well, I appreciate everyone. Anybody have any last comments or words or thoughts before we end the panel discussion? We went over just a little bit over an hour, but I appreciate you for sticking in. I think it was a great conversation. It is a much needed conversation. I hope to continue to have these conversations with my peers and family members to bring awareness not only to the mental and emotional health piece of it, which is very important, but just offer a platform where people can discuss how they're feeling, and we can feed and learn off of each other. So I've learned some things personally tonight that I didn't know, and I look forward how to bring those things into my community, into my little group of individual friends and family, so that we can continue on and be the leaders that I know that each one of you are, and that I am. So I want to be a better example for my son. I know people, if anybody have kids besides Datavian and myself, we want to be better examples. We want to see. That was my whole point with asking my brother to be part, mainly is, you know, so that he can feel good. My nephew can feel good to say that, you know, he's done something. My son can go back and watch and say, my mom did do something during the pandemic. Not only, we're dealing with two pandemics, the COVID and the racial pandemic. So it's very hard, but I believe sticking together, working together, and loving each other more and just being understanding is going to help all of us grow and continue on to be great.
I just want to add one little thing, mainly to people, you know, of my skin color. Educate yourself. Get out there, do research. If you want to know how you can help, go talk to a friend that's a different color. Go be around somebody who doesn't look like you. Just educate yourself, do your research, and just try to open your mind. I mean, I don't think that I would have been on the same side or maybe think the same if I wasn't engaged to somebody who was half Black. So it's just, you gotta get out there and educate yourself.
You're right.
It's such a privilege to be able to educate yourself on racism and not be able to experience it. And right now there's so many resources. There's movies, podcasts, books. So if you want to be ignorant, and like, that's your choice now, because there's so many resources out there. I also wanted to say that I'm so inspired by Datavian and Brittany's courage to like speak out and take action. I think that's what's different about this movement this time around, is it's giving people courage to share their stories, and they're realizing that they could touch, even if it's just one person, if they could change that person's mindset, then that'll change the world.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
I just, I want to leave everybody with this little tidbit, because I know I've been talking like the whole time, but I'm passionate about this. But if you want to, a simple way to challenge somebody's racism, give them this story. We've all experienced a company potluck or a potluck of some sort, right? Right, everybody?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Potluck, right? And we have all been in that place where we look at a dish that somebody bought. We don't know who bought it, but we judge it before we taste it. And so when we do that, we will take the recommendation from somebody who we trust to say, hey, you know what, you might want to try it. It was good. And then when we try, we realize it wasn't that bad. Tell them the same thing with racism. When you look at somebody, don't prejudge them because you could be missing a gem in life.
Mm-hmm.
Give them a try. You might like it. And that's what I want to leave with everybody. It was a pleasure to meet everybody. And Marquisa, I thank you for creating this platform for us to be able to share our stories and others' experiences, and for other people to captivate our emotions and our sentiments and our perspectives. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Marquisa. You know,
I
when I
didn't have a
text you, I was
panel
like, hey,
without
are you
y'all.
doing something?
Yes, Alton, you planted the seed. Then I just watered it from there, because I just think, we can't, I don't think any business or organization can really go without talking about what's going on. If you do, then you don't support it. That's how I feel about it. So
Right.
I wanted to definitely bring people that I know and trusted to come and to have, open and honest and transparent conversations. I mean, it's needed. So thank y'all all for just being a part of it, taking time out of your evening to be a part of this. I know that we've touched somebody. Somebody's going to look different and say, I didn't know that. But I just encourage you to keep doing what you're doing, all of you, and keep being the loving and sweet people that you all are. And that I love each and every one of you individually, and your mental health matter. You matter. No matter what color your skin is, you matter. So I just encourage you to keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, and I want to say real
anything?
quick.
Okay.
I'll say something real quick. It was a big step for me to even say anything, because I haven't said anything in 6 years. So just you guys being an open ear. I haven't shared my story totally, but just by doing this helped me out a lot, to where I can just reach somebody else or try to go out and protest, because I wasn't doing it only because I was scared, but just talking to you guys and seeing what changes you make, even if it's reaching out to the universities or going out to stand on what you believe. I just want to say thank you guys, because I will make sure I won't just have another event or party or something like that, but now I will try to use my voice and just do something to help the community. And I just say thank you guys, because this is a real big step for me, and I appreciate for being a part of the panel. So hopefully we can do it again so I can learn more.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you, baby.
And Hannah, thank you for sharing your story. I got a different aspect from what you were saying about your parents, how, they just weren't informed, and not necessarily because they didn't want to be, but because the news outlet doesn't inform them. Don't do that. Don't talk about it. So I'm glad to be a part of that, because it makes me think now, not everybody is just ignorant because they want to be, but sometimes they just need that help being educated on the facts. So really great call, and happy to be a part of this conversation today.
proud of everybody.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I just want to remind people who don't know, follow Mask Off Panel. We all over social media. We plan on having more and more platforms like this. Hopefully we'll have, okay, Alton, I see you with the Mask Off Panel shirt. Thank you so much. People, purpose, I got you, baby. The purpose of Mask Off Panel is to provide a non-judgmental platform for people to discuss all concerns regarding mental and emotional health issues. Why do we do what we do? It's time to stop talking about mental and emotional health and do something about it. How do we do that at Mask Off Panel? We serve as the glue to connect people to the right resources so they can begin their journey towards a healthy mental and emotional lifestyle. So that's what Mask Off Panel is about. I feel like we've done that today. We've done that. We've offered the platform. It was non-judgmental, non-biased. We had open and honest, transparent conversation. So I thank you all again, and I hope you all have a wonderful night. And if you want to link up with anybody want to share any websites? I know we have a couple activists on here. Do you want to show any websites, any information, any events you have coming up before we end? No? Okay, well, follow Mask Off Panel then. You can get, and then if you have anything later, then let me know. I was waiting on you.
I know. I just feel like the eyes be on me, but okay. If you need any resources or you would like to find out anything from me beyond this conversation, you can always email me at standing for the people 2020 at gmail.com, or you can find me on Instagram, bowtie_Slayer.
Thank you, Brittany. We will make sure we get that out to the people after the show. So thank y'all so much for being a part of our panel, Mask Off Panel's discussion, and we love y'all very much. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.